Ever wonder what really happens behind the scenes of professional sports? What if I told you the story unfolding between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese is more than just basketball? This isn't your typical rivalry, it's a saga of ambition, jealousy, and escape. Stick around. Because by the end of this video, you'll have the full scoop on why Clark left for Europe and why Reese is making it everyone's business. Trust me, things are messier than they look, and with the way Reese is stirring the pot, this is one showdown you don't want to miss. Caitlin Clark's sudden departure to Europe took fans and media by surprise, sparking waves of speculation. While some chalked it up to chasing new opportunities, Angel Reese wasn't buying that story. Instead, Reese claimed Clark was running after paychecks, accusing her of using Europe as an escape from the growing tension within the WNBA. But here's the twist: Reese didn't just criticize Clark's decision. She went all in, hijacking the spotlight and turning Clark's move into a headline-grabbing controversy. Reese, who's already tangled up in her own steroid scandal, saw an opportunity to shift public focus by throwing shade at Clark. In her words, Clark's exit was just another example of a player exploiting racism as an excuse for sympathy, a claim that only fueled more backlash. And while people were still digesting Reese's harsh words, the drama took an unexpected turn. Fans and critics alike began questioning whether Reese's outrage was really about Clark or if it was more about her frustration with her own dwindling spotlight. Because let's face it, when Clark stepped into the limelight, Reese found herself standing on the sidelines. Angel Reese didn't just criticize Caitlin Clark's move, she aimed to control the narrative entirely. In a series of interviews, Reese went so far as to accuse Clark of using Europe as a shield from criticism and drama within the WNBA. According to Reese, players like Clark were more concerned about stacking paychecks than contributing to the league's growth, even suggesting that racism was being used as a sympathy card to win public favor. But here's the wild part: Caitlin Clark. She never said a word against Reese or anyone else. Throughout the drama, Clark stayed silent, letting her game speak louder than the noise. Fans noticed, and her cool-headedness only added to her growing popularity. Yet, Reese's frustration kept building. The media frenzy kept shining a light on Clark's achievements, while Reese struggled to maintain her place in the spotlight. Reese's resentment wasn't just about Clark moving to Europe, it was about the overwhelming love Clark was receiving from fans. From Iowa to Indiana, supporters rallied behind Clark, making her one of the most celebrated athletes in women's basketball. In contrast, Reese found herself caught in a web of scandals, with both fans and critics labeling her the villain. Clark's ability to rise above the noise made her even more difficult to criticize. For every jab Reese threw, Clark's silence made it sting more. And that silence? It only fueled Reese's anger. While Reese insisted on calling out racism and financial motives, Clark stayed laser-focused on basketball. It became clear that for Clark, the move to Europe was more than just an opportunity, it was an escape from the toxic environment growing around her in the WNBA. At first glance, the WNBA might seem like the perfect stage for a player like Caitlin Clark, someone built to dominate. But behind the scenes, it was becoming anything but a dream. The spotlight, though bright, came with shadow scandals, envy, and a growing number of side eyes. Clark wasn't just playing basketball anymore, she was dodging toxic rumors and handling criticism from every direction. Meanwhile, Reese's accusations only added fuel to the fire. While Clark focused on improving her game, Reese accused her of being a coward, claiming Clark was running from the challenges of the WNBA. But insiders knew better: it wasn't about Clark dodging competition. It was about stepping away from the toxic circus the league had become. Clark had realized that the atmosphere around her wasn't about basketball anymore, it was about jealousy, drama, and players who couldn't handle her rapid rise. The resentment wasn't limited to fans or media. Some of Clark's fellow players, including WNBA star Alyssa Thomas, took shots at her as well. Thomas even blamed Clark for racist remarks made by spectators in the stands, an accusation that left many scratching their heads. As if Clark could somehow control what random fans were shouting during games. Clark's ability to stay calm in the face of all this was remarkable. Despite being labeled a villain by some, she never retaliated or engaged in the drama. She let the negativity bounce off her, keeping her head in the game. But the tension around her kept growing, like a storm gaining strength. Reese's outbursts, combined with other players' frustrations, made Clark the perfect scapegoat for their own struggles. And through it all, Clark remained steady. She didn't let the noise get in the way of her passion for basketball. But that didn't stop the jealousy from burning bright. It became clear that her very success was provoking others. Instead of applauding her brilliance, they tore her down, hoping to dim the light that shone too brightly for their liking. For Caitlin Clark, the decision to head to Europe wasn't just about a change of scenery or a bigger paycheck. It was about breathing freely, away from the suffocating toxicity brewing within the WNBA. The league, which once seemed like a perfect fit for her talents, had turned into a minefield of envy and drama. What was supposed to be a platform for celebrating greatness became a battleground where petty accusations overshadowed basketball. Clark's presence on the court drew both admiration and resentment. Players who had spent years grinding for recognition couldn't stomach the fact that Clark, a rookie, was getting all the love and attention. They saw her rise as an insult, a sign that their hard work was going unnoticed. Rather than pushing themselves to compete at her level, some players let jealousy get the better of them. They were quick to criticize, slow to celebrate, and always ready to find reasons to drag Clark down. Europe offered Clark something the WNBA couldn't piece. In a league across the ocean, she could play the game she loved without the constant drama and noise. There were no entitled teammates throwing shade, no endless gossip about who was chasing fame or money. It was simply basketball, the way it was meant to be. For Clark, it wasn't just an opportunity, it was a much-needed escape from the relentless scrutiny that had come to define her time in the WNBA. Reese, however, wasn't ready to let Clark go quietly. She doubled down on her accusations, insisting that Clark's departure was all about money. "She's just here for the paycheck," Reese claimed, determined to shift the conversation away from her own issues. But behind the scenes, Reese had problems of her own that were far bigger than Clark's European adventure. Reese's steroid scandal had already rocked the league, and her reputation was hanging by a thread. With media headlines dragging her name through the mud, she saw Clark's move as an opportunity to deflect attention. If she could keep the focus on Clark, maybe people would forget about the steroids, the lawsuits, and the whispers of a lifetime ban from the WNBA. But the truth was hard to hide. Reese's anger at Clark was more than just professional rivalry, it was personal. Watching Clark shine while she struggled in the shadows wasn't easy to swallow, and Reese's resentment boiled over into public outbursts. As the drama unfolded, it became clear Clark's success wasn't just a threat to Reese's career, it was a reminder of everything she had lost. While Caitlin Clark was preparing for her new journey in Europe, Angel Reese found herself sinking deeper into controversy. Every time Clark's name appeared in headlines, it served as a painful reminder to Reese that her own career was slipping through her fingers. Reese's steroid scandal was still fresh, and the consequences were harsh, from public disgrace to a potential lifetime ban from the WNBA. Yet instead of focusing on damage control, Reese went all in on dragging Clark through the mud. What made the situation worse was Reese's inability to accept her role in her downfall. Rather than taking responsibility, she threw wild accusations at Clark, calling her decision to play in Europe a money grab. Reese dismissed the idea that Clark's move was about escaping the toxic WNBA environment, insisting that it was all just a facade for financial gain. But analysts and fans saw through Reese's deflection. Sports commentators like Stephen A. Smith and Patrick Bet-David didn't hold back. They openly criticized Reese, calling her out for using Clark as a distraction from her own scandal. The hypocrisy was glaring. Here was a player with a career on the verge of collapse, not from bad luck, but from a doping scandal, trying to shift the narrative by attacking someone else's motives. Reese's frustrations boiled over during one game when she cheered on a teammate who shoved Clark on the court. It wasn't subtle, it was deliberate, a clear attempt to stir up drama. And Clark? She kept her cool, brushing it off as just another unnecessary distraction. Fans could see the pettiness for what it was: jealousy wrapped in bitterness. Clark's ability to rise above the nonsense only made Reese look worse. For Reese, this rivalry had become deeply personal. Clark's popularity wasn't just an annoyance, it was a symbol of everything Reese wanted but couldn't achieve. Watching Clark dominate both on and off the court felt like salt in the wound, especially as Reese's own career unraveled in the public eye. And as Clark became the face of women's basketball, Reese was left grappling with the harsh reality that her moment in the spotlight was slipping away. As Caitlin Clark embarked on her European journey, it became clear that her decision was a triumph in more ways than one. By leaving behind the chaos of the WNBA, Clark proved that her love for basketball outweighed the distractions. She didn't need to engage in petty rivalries or respond to baseless accusations. Her silence spoke volumes, showing the world that real greatness isn't just about performance on the court, it's about character. Meanwhile, Angel Reese's world continued to unravel. The steroid scandal, combined with her relentless attempts to undermine Clark, left her reputation in tatters. Public sentiment had shifted, and even those who once supported her began to question her actions. The lawsuits, the potential ban, and her inability to take responsibility marked the beginning of the end for Reese's career. The stark contrast between Clark and Reese told a story in itself. One player chose to rise above the noise, focusing on growth and new opportunities, while the other got trapped in jealousy and scandal, dragging herself further into controversy. As Clark thrived in Europe, making headlines for her performance on the court, Reese remained entangled in a web of negativity of her own making. In the end, Clark's move to Europe wasn't just an escape, it was a statement. She wasn't running away from the WNBA, she was walking toward a better future. And that future didn't need drama, toxic teammates, or public feuds. It only needed basketball, pure and simple. For Angel Reese, the lesson came too late. Her attacks on Clark, her steroid scandal, and her desperate attempts to regain the spotlight had backfired. What was once a promising career had been reduced to a cautionary tale of how jealousy and bad decisions can lead to downfall. Caitlin Clark, however, had already moved on, leaving behind the noise, the rumors, and the toxic circus. She let her game do the talking and carved out a path of her own, proving that real champions don't need to fight battles that don't matter. In the end, Clark's quiet exit spoke louder than Reese's loudest accusations. And while Reese struggled to stay afloat, Clark soared, reminding everyone that sometimes the best way to win is simply to walk away.